All right. I am just waiting to see when I come through here live over YouTube. So just bear with me for just 1 second. Um, StreamYards has a tad bit of lag when you first start it. If you guys can hear me out there, let me know if my audio is good. Just making sure before we get things started here. If there's anything I need to correct. I'm going to go check the audio 1 second, folks. All right, it looks like we're good. Looks like we're good here. So welcome everyone. I know it's been a minute since we've done anything here on this channel, but it's been a little hectic. But I'm glad to be able to get things back on track here. Glad to be able to do something on this channel. I got a lot of content coming up. This isn't just like a one and done, and I'm fucking out of here. I've got a horror movie collection update coming. I have also got a new episode of Bloody Breakdown that I just finished writing last night. For those interested, it is Cabin Fever. So we're going to be doing a deep dive on the 2002 Eli Roth film Cabin Fever. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Before we get started today, guys, I do appreciate and thank everyone who's joining me here for the live chat. I know it's a little early in the morning, kind of the only time I was able to do this. But if you would like to follow me, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, those links are all down below in the description. And if at any point during this video you realize, you know what, this guy needs my fucking support, and I'm going to give it to him, there is a link, the first link, actually, because I'm a money-hungry piece of shit. I kid. Is for Patreon. So if you'd like to support my work on Patreon, you can do that as well, and it would be greatly appreciated. So kind of with all that shilling out of the way, an update of where the channel's going, what we have on the horizon, let's go ahead and start talking about this tier list. So as you can see here, I have compiled a list of 25 of some of the top slashers in the history of slasher horror films. Now, I know there are going to be some people that look at this list and they're going to see somebody or something or whatever that's not on it that should be. My apologies. I really don't know what else to tell you. My apologies here. So these are the top 25 that I could come up with off the top of my head, just kind of glancing over some of my films. And I think it's a good time to do something that a lot of people are doing. Not necessarily slashers, but just these tier lists in general. They look kind of fun. I want to try my hand at it. So let's go. And by the way, out in the chat, I see Mistaken Reaper. I see Gavin Likes Movies. And anybody who comes in here later on, feel free, throw out some comments there. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my placement of some of these individuals, or if you have any kind of insight as well. So let's go ahead and start off here. So first we have Freddy Krueger from the Nightmare on Elm Street series. We have Billy, and I'm just going straight across here from the top. Looks like we have Billy from Black Christmas. We have Candyman, Chucky from the Child's Play series. We have the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. Right here we have the Firefly family from the Rob Zombie trilogy. We have Jason from Friday the 13th. And I'm not going to be including Mrs. Voorhees in this one. I think I've kind of kept it to like one entity, or at least one picture, one person, whatever, per franchise, unless it's necessary, like here with the Fireflies. Next, we have Hellraiser, Pinhead from Hellraiser, Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We have right here Leslie Vernon from Behind the Mask, Harry Warden from My Bloody Valentine, Michael Myers, of course, from Halloween. We have Norman Bates from Psycho, Cropsy from The Burning, Ghostface from Scream. I just used the downstairs Deadite to kind of represent all Deadites in general from the Evil Dead. Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, that whole franchise. We have Jigsaw, aka John Kramer from the Saw franchise. Victor Crowley from the Hatchet series. Pennywise the Dancing Clown from It. Leprechaun, the Fisherman, aka Ben Willis from I Know What You Did Last Summer. A big group picture here of all the puppets from Puppet Master, Sam from Trick or Treat, and last but not least, we have Pumpkinhead. So, all right, 25 right there. Let's go ahead and start ranking them. I'll be honest with you. I guess we'll just go ahead and go down the line here, and we can kind of talk about and see where we think people need to go. So first and foremost, we've got the list here is Freddy Krueger. Personally, I believe there is a Mount Rushmore, as I'm sure most of you have kind of seen those memes before, a Mount Rushmore as it relates to the top slashers. With that being said, Freddy Krueger being a Wes Craven creation, having a successful franchise, having some really brutal kills, being a rather somewhat intelligent killer, being an entertaining killer. I know that sounds fucked up to say, but an entertaining killer. I have to say, Freddy Krueger is definitely on that Mount Rushmore. And with that said, I don't think that I could put Freddy Krueger anywhere else than up here in the S tier. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. If anyone disagrees with me, let me know. Whether you're here live, let me know in the live chat. Whether you're watching this later on, let me know in the comments. But I really don't see any other place to put Freddy Krueger than in that S tier. I mean, it's God tier slasher. I really don't say. I can't think of anything else to say here. If you disagree with this, I'm not looking for an argument. I'm looking for some really good answers to why you wouldn't put him in the top. So, all right, we'll move on here. Next up, we've got Billy from Black Christmas. Now, this one's a little difficult because other than a remake, this guy never really had a follow-up. Now, there are rumors. I don't know how true this is. I guess we'd have to find out by asking the writer of Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, that the character of Eugene was based on or was Billy from Black Christmas, who had kind of, gotten away and changed up his name and things of this nature. I don't know. I really don't know that. But what we do know here is Black Christmas and the remake, specifically the original, is what we kind of have to base this off of here. I mean, the guy got away as far as we can tell. He had some pretty brutal kills, very sneaky, very unhinged, but also he seemed like he had somewhat of a plan. I'll tell you what, I don't think that Billy is very prolific, so I think that keeps him out of the S tier and honestly A tier. The fact that he has a lot of qualities, but I don't think we've seen quite enough of him, to be honest with you. Personally, I think I would probably have to put Billy. And this is unfortunate because I have a lot of appreciation for this killer, but I think I may have to put him in D, but I think the fact that he's such a classic slasher, I'm going to have to move him up to at least C. And I think the reason being for that is the simple fact that, I mean, this is a guy who kind of, in a lot of ways, ushered in the era of slashers. I think you have to look at people like Norman Bates, or characters rather like Norman Bates. I think you have to look at characters like Billy. So normally I think I would put Billy in the D tier, unfortunately. But I think just the fact that he's such a classic icon in slasher horror, as far as one of the first, I think that's what's going to land him in C. And I feel like that's a little bit disrespectful, but, we're going to keep moving on. So Candyman, of course, from the Candyman series, played by Tony Todd. We've got a new one of those films coming up by Nia DaCosta at the director's helm, being produced by Jordan Peele. So that should be pretty damn good. Excuse me. So Candyman, where are we going to put Candyman? I'll be honest with you. Look at his films. The original is a classic. I don't think either of the two sequels that we've seen really amount to much, especially that third one. But I think he's got a really good story. I think he's different in a lot of ways from any other slasher out there. I'm having a little trouble with him too, to be honest with you. but I think I know where I would put Candyman. Once again, I gotta say, I don't believe his body count is too high, as I recall. However, he is a classic, iconic character who deserves his due. And with that said, I think I'm gonna be putting Candyman here in the B tier. Now that's not like a pun or a joke about the bees with Candyman. Here comes Nicolas Cage. Oh no, not the bees. But yeah, I think that's kind of fitting. Honestly, I think it's fitting to put Candyman there. Maybe he's not the most prolific. He's certainly a classic slasher icon. Low body count, interesting story, interesting character. I think I feel confident putting him here on the B tier. Once again, feels a little bit disrespectful, but there's a lot of people on this list here, and I'm just trying to be honest to myself. Once again, guys, I feel like I have to reiterate this. This is my uh, opinion. So I'm gonna check the chat here. It's Mistaken Reaper says, I have to say Michael Myers, Jason, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre are my favorites. I would have to agree with you there. Those are some of the best, absolutely. Gavin likes movie. Chucky is God. Yeah, I'll be honest with you. Chucky's up next, and we're gonna find out exactly where I think Chucky needs to be. We got some Chucky lovers here in the chat now. Chucky from Child's Play. Me personally, I would say that Chucky is very close to being on that mountain, that Mount Rushmore of horror. Does he quite make the S tier? That is the question. I'll go ahead and tell you right now, I'm a Chucky fan myself. Between the original trilogy, Bride, Seed, Curse, Cult, love them all. Can't wait for the TV show. Wasn't too big on the remake, but I appreciated the attempt to do something different with the character. Also enjoyed Mark Hamill's voice work. Chucky's pretty prolific. He's got a big body count. Definitely a classic slasher icon. But I gotta say, I think he's just maybe gonna miss the mark on S tier just a little. Personally speaking, and once again, just my opinion here, I'm gonna be putting Chucky right here in A tier. I think the only thing that really keeps Chucky out of the S tier is just that diminutive stature. The fact that, you've had a lot of comedy movies with him. I think a lot of people, it's hard to say, but I think I really don't want to load up any tier here, especially S tier. I don't want to really just, fillet all these horror icons and throw them in the S tier like I really would probably like to. But I'm trying to be fair here, and I'm really trying to make a tier list. So I would put Chucky in A tier. I think most people would be okay with that, So up next here we have the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. Now I know a lot of people pretty much just throw away anything and everything Jeepers Creepers because of Victor Salva and how he's a pedo piece of shit. And I feel you. As it comes to Victor Salva, he can fucking drown in a toilet for all I give a shit. Not a good person. However, I feel like I'm able to separate art from artist. I enjoyed the Jeepers Creepers films, at least the first two. Third one, not so much. It has a couple of moments where I think it's a decent film. But as far as the character itself, there's very few other characters out there like it. It's got a very interesting story. It's still shrouded in mystery. I believe that I would put the Creeper, given his 3 films, a 4th one apparently in the works. There's definitely some, reasons to not exactly want to support the franchise. I would understand that. But as far as just the character itself, the creature itself, a lot of backstory we don't know about. We slowly learn things about this creature, which I really find entertaining and intriguing over these installments. I think Jeepers Creepers. I think the Creeper is going to make my C tier. I think honestly, if that last movie hadn't been so bad, maybe we've gotten a little bit more out of him. Maybe I could see moving him up to B. But looking at who's there and looking at who's at B and C already, I think the Creeper would fit better in right here on C tier. Um, I see Gavin likes movies in the chat. I am not okay with this. I apologize for my treatment of Chucky, sir. I really do. I'm a big fan, but I just don't know if, in my opinion, he reaches that S tier. So up next, we have the Firefly family from, of course, the Firefly trilogy, House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, and Three from Hell. And I included just these three core characters. I really didn't see being able to pick one out of them. I kind of thought those three in general would probably do a good job of representing the entire clan. So when it comes to the Firefly family, they're a little bit different as well. They have a bit of a Texas Chainsaw feel to them, and that family vibe, that southern backwoodsy type vibe that they have going on. They're very brutal, very vicious. They change almost like their MOs and their, from the first installment to the second. They go from being somewhat involved in the supernatural to more or less just being these vigilante serial killers. So I think at the end of the day, I think if you look at the fact that Devil's Rejects, in my opinion, is probably one of the better slasher movies that I've ever seen. Definitely Rob Zombie's best work. I think I'm gonna have to. I'm having a little trouble deciding with these two on B or C tier. I'm having just a little bit of trouble trying to decide where the Firefly clan should land. Going back and looking at the first film, they're all pretty brutal. I mean, Spaulding's more or less comedy relief in that one. But definitely Otis and Baby, very brutal. In the second film, all three of them, very brutal. You get to see a more humanistic, I guess, even though they're still not very good humans. You get to see a more humanistic version of them. And then I think in the third one you do as well. I think, with Spaulding's passing and, Sid actually passing in real life, I think there was some layers of character built there. But I got to tell you, probably not the most prolific. The last one was straight to video. I think it may have had a little run in some of those smaller theaters. I forget the name of them. I think what I'm gonna have to do here, guys, I think I'm gonna have to put the Firefly clan C tier, maybe C tier. I don't know if I want to leave them there. I just don't know if I want to leave them there. I'm really thinking about moving them up to the B tier. And you know what? I'm gonna do it. Firefly clan up here at the B tier. All right. So next up, and I'll check the chat real quick. Gavin Likes Movies says Pennywise is great. Really in all films, even though they are not all good. Yeah, I'll agree with that. The character itself is good. Now up next is Jason, Friday the 13th. I said earlier, there's a slasher Mount Rushmore. So I think we can save time with this one and say that Jason may be one of, if not the most prolific slashers in the history of the franchise, or not franchise, in the genre rather. So I don't think it's much of a stretch to go ahead and put Jason Voorhees right here in the top of the S tier. I don't think that's much of a stretch to say. Jason Voorhees in the S tier. A lot of films, very prolific. The characters made Paramount and New Line a whole lot of money. And I think he's got the biggest body count of any slasher. So that alone should put him at the top, right? Right. Okay. So Hellraiser, Pinhead is up next. Excuse me. Now, this one, and once again, Hellraiser is, or Pinhead's going to be representing all the Cenobites as a whole here. He's just kind of the leader. Feel like it's best to put him out front and center. The guy, this series has had sequel after sequel after sequel. I'll be honest with you. The first two are fantastic. The third is okay, and then the rest of them kind of bleed together for me in a lot of ways. Not to say that all of them are bad films. I think the last one they had with the Auditor was a really good film, probably the best they've had in quite some time. And with Hellraiser, if I'm not mistaken, there's a TV show and a movie coming. So there are some things on the horizon here for our old pal Pinhead. And I think he's pretty damn prolific, to be honest with you. I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and move Pinhead up to the A tier. We officially have 2 slashers in every tier except for D. And I knew I was going to be too nice about this. I knew I was. I have yet to put any slasher in the D tier because I think I have a soft spot for all of them. Gavin says you put my favorite slasher icon underneath Jason. I'm so sorry, man. I'm so sorry. You're not a Jason fan, maybe, or at least not opposed to I'm assuming Chucky. So and Mistaken Reaper agrees. You know, I got somebody helping me out here. So far we have Billy from Black Christmas and the Creeper in the C tier. We have nobody in D tier. We have Candyman and the Firefly Clan in the B tier, Chucky and Pinhead in the A tier, and Freddy and Jason in S tier. So up next we have another guy in Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, who I feel like a lot of people would include in the Mount Rushmore that I kind of speak of when it comes to horror slashers. Now, I'm not 100% sure about that. Now, earlier I talked about, you know, how classic of a character Billy from Black Christmas was and how he was one of the originals, and that still landed him in C tier. Now, Leatherface, on the other hand, is also a classic slasher character, predating even Michael Myers himself. Tobe Hooper directed the original. Fantastic fucking film. I love the sequel. I even like, the third and fourth. And the fourth one is, oh, man, it's garbage. I'll admit it's a bad film, but I enjoy it. I guess a guilty pleasure. The remake was amazing. The prequel to the remake was even pretty good. Not big on Texas Chainsaw 3D, but do your thing, cuz. And Leatherface, the newest one they made. Oh, man, I did not like that one at all. But I got to tell you, he's prolific. He's got a decent-sized body count. It's a character that people are going to recognize, although I feel like the franchise has kind of had better days at this point. I think we're going to do something that may piss some people off, and I'm going to put Leatherface in A tier. Now, the only thing that keeps Leatherface completely out of new subscriber. Thank you. The only thing that keeps, in my opinion, Leatherface out of the S tier, when I'm thinking S tier, when I'm thinking like, GOAT, like greatest of all time slasher, I think Leatherface is a lot like Chucky. So you may actually get something out of this, Gavin. I think he's extremely close to breaking through and being that a top S tier slasher. It's very close, but I think he just maybe misses out. Gosh, it sucks to. You know what? Maybe I think I'm going to change my mind here. I think we got to do it. I think we got to move Leather up to the S tier. I really do. What can you say? The guy's one of the original slashers. The original and some of the subsequent sequels are just really phenomenal or entertaining in general. I think we got to put Leather in the S tier. I think he barely makes it, but he makes it. Let's say that. Also, the fact that I think in having him up here, he also kind of represents his entire family, his clan, so to speak, which I'm a fan of some of those characters as well, specifically like Chop Top. So, you know what? Yeah, let's put Leather in S tier. I think that's a good plan. See, we got Sean here in the chat, the shape Michael Myers. Yes, he is coming up. We're going to be getting to him in just one moment. Intelligent Cycle says, "What's up, Brand? How's it going?" And Gavin likes movies. I put your favorite slasher icon, or you put my favorite slasher icon over Leatherface. He barely speaks. Dude, I'm never gonna hear the end of this from Gavin. You know what, Gavin? If you give me some reasons in the chat why you really feel like I should put Chucky in the S tier, you may sway me. I may move Chucky up to the S tier because I felt like Chucky and Leather are kind of on that same level almost, that they were close to the S tier, but not quite. And I ended up moving Leather. So, you know, he doesn't speak. Well, I'll tell you this. Neither does Jason. But I think we would agree that Jason belongs in the S tier. So I can't always say that it just, there are a lot of different things I think we should look at, when we're thinking about building the slasher list. I think your body count goes into it. I think the number of sequels, the financial success of the franchise, the brutality, the intelligence of the slasher. I think a lot of that goes into it. So I mean, I feel you guys, I do. But once again, just my opinion. However, anyone in the chat, if you guys speak up, maybe you can sway me to move a slasher icon up or down the list. So just let me know. So next up, we're going to be going with, next in the list here is Leslie Vernon from Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Now, no franchise tied to this guy. He's a one and done. However, this film, I think, I've always looked at this film as sort of a combination between Scream and the Blair Witch Project, in that we're getting a almost like a documentary, a mockumentary, I guess you'd call it, since it's obviously not actually happening, and that self-referential, aware, meta type of content you get from Scream. I think if you morph those two together, you get Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon. Now, with that said, one and done. The guy, not very prolific. Although I will say, I think he is very beloved in the horror, specifically slasher fandom. And I know that a lot of people would love to see a sequel to this. I think that what you saw from the Leslie Vernon character was something you had never seen from any other slasher in the genre. And I think that he deserves his due for that. However, I can't honestly say that I would put him higher than, say, the C tier. And that's only because I absolutely love this film and his character outside of the mask. And even with the mask on, seeing a plan come to fruition that, I spoke earlier about intelligent killers. I think that Leslie Vernon is one of the more intelligent killers, how his plan came together, how he knew all this was going to happen. He's almost got a touch of Jigsaw to him in how he operates. So I think C tier is okay for him. Let's see here. Chucky is such a great icon. Even in the first film, he still keeps the same personality, even in Seed, and is the funniest icon, and yet still terrifying. His kills and one-liners are unmatched. Good point, Gavin. Good point. We got Ashwin in here who says Behind the Mask is definitely not a S tier film, but it deserves A or B tier for its unique attempt. Yeah, and that's the thing. I'm not necessarily ranking the films. I'm ranking the slashers themselves. I'll definitely agree with what you said there, though. But as far as the slasher themselves, I got to rank him kind of low. I really wanted to move him up a little bit, maybe to a B tier, but I kind of feel like there's some other people that are going to be on that list that maybe outrank him. Like I said, maybe things can change. We'll see. Gavin, referring to that, I believe that remake of Chucky, the great voice performance by Brad Dourif. Couldn't agree more. Fantastic. The best part about that remake by far was not Brad Dourif, but Mark Hamill in the remake. You talking about Brad Dourif? Yeah, Brad Dourif's fucking, oh god, dude, classic, amazing work. You know what, Gavin? I'm gonna consider this Chucky move. I'm gonna consider it for you. So Sean says Norman Bates deserves to be in there. I do have Norman in here. I think he's third from where we are right now. So we're going to be getting to him shortly. So up next is Harry Warden. Harry Warden, One and done. There was a remake. But yeah. So I guess you kind of have to conglomerate and put together the actual killer from the film itself, and the whole legend of Harry Warden into one guy, I guess, is what we're doing here. I think the original Mom Blooded Valentine is a pretty interesting, unique, cool little slasher film. The remake was what it was, a 3D cash in, had its moments. Enjoyed some of the actors that they got to be involved in that film. But I got to tell you, for me, other than a couple of cool kills, I got to put Harry down here in the D tier. I think he's the first one that makes it into the D tier. Not that there's, anything particularly I have against this slasher character, but I mean, not very prolific. Not necessarily one of the smartest killers. Pretty brutal, pretty gruesome. But I think that's really all you can say about the character. I'll just say the minor, because obviously it's not just Harry Warden doing these killings in these films. So yeah, I think that'll about do it for Harry. Not much to say about Harry. Anyway, up next, Michael Myers from the Halloween franchise. Guys, I'm biased. I'm not going to lie to you. I am very biased. Halloween's my favorite film, not just my favorite slasher film, not just my favorite horror film, my favorite film in general of all time. Some of the sequels, even the bad ones, I'll admit that I enjoy. I'll pop in Halloween 5 or Resurrection or Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 from time to time and watch those admitted pieces of shit because I love the character and I love the franchise. Now, as far as the character itself, big body count. I think everybody knows who Michael Myers is, whether you're a fan of horror or not. Definitely one of the originals. One of the guys that kind of, set that standard for tying a franchise to like an unkillable killer. For me, Halloween, regardless of what came before it in Psycho or Texas Chainsaw or Black Christmas, regardless of any of that, I think Halloween is probably the closest thing to like that blueprint that slashers use to this day. So with that said, I don't think it's going to be a surprise to anybody. We're going to put Michael Myers up here in the S tier. I think anything less would be disrespectful. Gavin in the chat, also the concept of the original Child's Play is great and unique. Yeah, it is. And I'll tell you this, of all of the, killer doll movies that do exist out there, I have to say Child's Play is definitely the best story-wise. Just the execution in general. I think it was, and I'm still paying attention, Gavin. I'm still paying attention. I'm still thinking maybe there's room for Chucky in the S tier. I am convincible in this department. So up next, we have Norman Bates. Norman Bates, possibly the original slasher in a lot of people's eyes. I mean, I know a lot of people talk about this film and Peeping Tom coming out around the same time. So Norman Bates, like I say, one of the originals, definitely prolific. I think generally, I think most people know who Norman Bates is between the original Hitchcock film, between its 3 original sequels, between that awful ass fucking Vince Vaughn remake that should have never existed, and even more recently, the Bates Motel television show, which introduced the character to a lot of maybe the younger audience, or reintroduced the character to an audience as well. Norman Bates, I think, the guy's got a low body count. I'll say that. He's got a very low body count, but he is an icon. He is one of the originals. He's a Hitchcock creation, which in and of itself, at least to me, means that he's worth note for sure. So I think the question for me is, should he be A, B, or C? I definitely wouldn't put him in D, and I don't quite think that he should be an S. Just given the fact that I think in the first film he killed what, one person, you know? Hey, this is a slasher list. If you think that's petty, it is a slasher list after all. So you know what? I am going to put, out of respect for the character, I'm going to put him here in B tier. I think C is a little too low for him, but with with Chucky and Pinhead being an A tier, I don't know if I can put Norman there. You know, I got a lot of love for Norman, almost as much as he had for his mom, but I think we're right where we need to be putting Norman in B tier. Once again, it feels a little disrespectful, but looking at who we have here and who we have left, I don't know. So Gavin says he also started so many killer doll films like Puppet Master and Dead Silence. Yeah, I could see that. I think there were a few out before him, but I still think that Chucky did it better. Pennywise is not a slasher villain, though. You know, I thought about that. And I thought to myself, yes, he's supernatural, but he eats people, and so does Hannibal Lecter, and so do a lot of other slashers. So I'm going to leave him. I think he qualifies. I'll agree with you. He's somewhat questionable as a slasher, but I think if some of these other guys qualify, I'd give it to him. Why not? Plus, who the fuck doesn't love Pennywise? You know, who doesn't want to talk about Pennywise? So up next, we have Cropsy here from The Burning, which is a one and done, no sequel, no remake, at least that I know of. If anyone does, let me know. I'd love to check it out. But Cropsy was based on an urban legend up around the New York area, if I'm not mistaken. I really dig the makeup job they did for him, which I believe let's see here. I'm gonna look this up before I say, because I'm not 100% sure. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, I think so. I think Tom Savini did the makeup on him. I think he turned down working on Nightmare 2 to do this film, actually. Chucky also needs a human for his goal. Yeah. Let's see. As far as Cropsy goes, I got to tell you, some really cool kills out of this guy. I remember at one point in the film, he comes with these like garden shears and just straight up cuts off one dude's entire set of fingers. Cool backstory. They used an urban legend to create it. It's kind of a knockoff of Friday the 13th in a lot of ways. He's a good killer. I love some of the kills, pretty brutal, but I got to tell you, at the end of the day, not very prolific. He's a one and done. And I think if you ask the average moviegoer if they know who Cropsy is, they're not going to have a clue. I'm going to put Cropsy down here in the D tier. It sucks. It sucks, but I think it has to be done. There's a lot of competition going on in this list. So up next is Ghostface from Scream. And once again, I think I'll probably be a little biased here, because if Halloween is, the best horror film, the best slasher film of all time, in my opinion, the best film of all time, in my opinion, especially when you're talking horror and slasher, Scream is my number 2. It may be my second favorite film in general of all time. Absolutely love this film. Love Wes Craven. Love Kevin Williamson's work. Big fan of a lot of the people that were involved in the film. But as far as the slasher itself, as far as Ghostface, as we know, Ghostface changes in every movie. Ghostface is not one slasher. Ghostface is, at this point in the films, you've had Billy, Stu, Mrs. Loomis, Mickey, Roman, Charlie, and Jill. So we're up to like what? 7 different Ghostface, not including the TV show, which I'm not, by the way. I know even the 3rd season actually did have a Ghostface mask in it, unlike the first 2. So here's the thing about Ghostface. Ghostface's plans always start really well, but there towards the end, it just seems to unravel. Also, these killers tend to be a little bit clumsy during the chase scenes. Ghostface seems to be more clumsy than the intended victim a lot of times. But I think the added addition of calling them on the phone, of using these horror tropes, of kind of messing with them psychologically before the kill. The kills are generally a knife. Now every once in a while you'll have your differences like Tatum in the garage, or, the PR lady from Scream 4 being hurled off of a building, or Tom Prinz being blown the fuck up in Scream 3. Every once in a while you'll have this type of stuff, but generally just a knife, or very classic slasher. I think Ghostface. Once again, I said I'm very biased towards Ghostface. I don't think I can, as much as I love Ghostface, I'm not going to put him in the S tier. I don't think it quite deserves that, because it's not one unifying person. It's many people using this as a disguise. So for that purpose, even though I love some of the kills, even though I love Ghostface, even though I love a lot of the killers that have donned the Ghostface costume, I think it would be unfair to put him in S tier. I'm going to put Ghostface in A tier. Right there. I think that seems pretty fair. Maybe some people might think I'm putting him a little bit too high. I know there's some interesting opinions on Ghostface as a slasher in the community. Gavin says Cropsy is the most forgettable. Yeah, I would agree with that. Like I said, I don't believe many people are gonna know who Cropsy is unless they're just a really big fan of the genre or the subgenre. You know what? You may have actually kind of swayed me here with this one, Gavin, talking about Chucky. His films are the most consistent out of generally the most slasher franchises. Other than Scream, I agree. But I do have Ghostface and Chucky in the same tier right now. But I will definitely agree with you on that front. The Child's Play franchise is one of the most cogent franchises out there. Things seem to generally have a flow to it, and you got to give Don Mancini credit for that. Never giving up on this project, never letting anyone else really get their mitts on it enough to get it off course once it was started. Yeah, I put I knew you were gonna hate the fact that I put Ghostface and Chucky in the same tier, but I admit my bias. So up next we have just the Deadites in general. Of course, I use the basement dwelling Deadite as a marker here for that, but just the Deadites in general. And once again, kind of mentioned earlier, is Pennywise a slasher? Are the Deadites a slasher? I think they're close, So, I didn't want to put Ash here because I wanted these to be primarily antagonists. So I went with just maybe one of the most recognized Deadites here in the basement dweller. So this one's a little difficult for me because, like I kind of alluded to earlier, Ash is for sure the star. And Ash does a lot of the slashing. He's Ashley Slashley, but as far as the Deadites go, this kind of also falls under the category of like Ghostface, for example. Because a Deadite could be any person, living or dead, technically speaking, essentially possessed, and more than likely coming after Ash Williams. He seems to have put a lot of these Deadites down, and he is a complete and total goof. So that doesn't say much for the Deadites, does it? But I think that The Evil Dead's definitely one of the greatest horror franchises out there. And I think that we should at least give the Deadites their due. I would definitely not put them in D tier, as I feel the Deadites in general are above a Harry Warden or a Cropsy. But at the same time, I don't quite know if the Deadites are worthy of a B tier with like the Candyman, the Firefly Clan, and Norman Bates. So, since Ash is really the standout in that series, and I didn't really want to put protagonists here, as far as the Deadites themselves go, I think I'm going to go ahead and put them here in C tier. Some of them are very menacing and are a force to be reckoned with. Some of them are, not really much of a problem. Ash seems to dispose of some of them rather quickly. Where's Bruce the Shark? I thought about that, but when I narrowed it down to 25, he was one of those where I was just like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if Bruce should be here or not. Maybe he should have been, and maybe I'll do another one of these in the future. I'm sure I'll do, about franchises. I'm sure I'll do something along like the lines of Final Girls too. And this is kind of just a litmus test to kind of see how this goes. But yeah, I would agree with you. Bruce probably should be in there, but after narrowing it down to just 25, he didn't quite make the cut. Pennywise, like you said earlier, he almost didn't make the cut, but just barely. So up next, we have Hannibal Lecter from the Thomas Harris authored series, later turned into movies, Silence of the Lambs, Red Dragon, Manhunter, Hannibal Rising, and of course the TV series. Of course, I used Anthony Hopkins' picture here, the probably the most recognizable version of Hannibal. I would consider him a slasher. I mean, he cuts people up and eats them, but he seems to be along the lines of more a sophisticated slasher, to be honest with you. I mean, he does enjoy eating you with fava beans and a nice Chianti. So, where would I put Hannibal? Where would I rank Hannibal amongst these? Very recognizable. Has a decent body count if you include a lot of the mythology in the books, the films, elsewhere. And I think he's pretty recognizable because I think that most people, even non-horror fans, a lot of people would remember, especially at a certain age, who Hannibal Lecter was. I mean, you got to think the Silence of the Lambs won an Academy Award for Best Picture, if I'm not mistaken. So recognizable, but where to put him? I think I've made up my mind here. I think Hannibal deserves to be here in the B tier. Memorable character, memorable protagonist involved with him in Will Graham and Clarice Starling. Good franchise for the most part. I don't know if you could have got a better actor to portray him in the majority of the films than Anthony Hopkins or Sir Anthony Hopkins. And once again, B sounds disrespectful. It even seems like it to me. But once again, it's my opinion. And, I don't want to just load up. Maybe if I had it my way, I'd just load up the S tier and be done with it. But I got to make this somewhat interesting. Chucky has one of the better remakes in horror franchises. Now that I don't know about. If I'm looking at good remakes, I'm thinking like Texas Chainsaw. Texas Chainsaw from 2000, or Texas Chainsaw Massacre with Jessica Biel from 2003. That's a fantastic remake. I have like a range of remakes, like a sliding scale of remakes. I think at the top, I'm looking at 2003's Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and at the bottom, I don't know, something like House of Wax or something. So let's see here. If he was next to Chucky, I would have thrown my phone out the window. I have a lot of respect for Hannibal, but I don't think he quite meets that A tier. And to be honest with you, I think the A tier is pretty nice right about now. I honestly do. Those are three of my favorites. So up next here we have Jigsaw, John Kramer, not Billy the Puppet, not Amanda or Hoffman or any of the subsequent. I guess they kind of like, blend in together, but just looking at John Kramer here, just looking at Jigsaw. I think most people in this day and age would know who Jigsaw is. Generally speaking, the Saw movies dominated the slasher genre for years, 7 years, maybe 6-7 years, consecutively at that, which is difficult to do, difficult to pull off. Now he himself doesn't, I guess, necessarily murder anybody in a way. He's kind of got that, he's kind of got that Charles Manson thing going on where he's responsible, but he doesn't necessarily pull the trigger, so to speak. He wants to almost educate his victims. He wants them to learn from the experience. There is a good side to this man, although muddled down with his violent rhetoric. So Jigsaw, once again, probably another one of my favorite franchises is the Saw franchise. And I'll be honest with you, looking at Jigsaw right now, you have to take into consideration the guy died in the third film. Now, bear in mind, 3 and 4 happened simultaneously, but he died in the third film. As of the last Saw film that was made, Jigsaw, he was still involved in the plot. He was active. Tobin Bell, who plays Jigsaw, was still on set filming scenes in the 8th installment after dying in 3. So yeah, the franchise needed the guy. Now, I guess we'll see what happens in Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson's version, Spiral. Of course, we got to wait fucking forever now to see that. Thanks, Rona. But as far as Jigsaw, where to put Jigsaw, where to make him, I would say Jigsaw definitely deserves to be in the A or B tier. I wouldn't quite put him in the S tier. I definitely wouldn't put him in the D tier or C tier. I think he's an A or B guy. I think that Gavin may blow a gasket if I put him in the A tier, but it may happen. Excuse me. So let's see here. I'm going to take a sip of water while I ponder where exactly I would put John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, here in this list. John Kramer, Jigsaw, where to put him? Man, this is difficult. This is difficult, but I think I'm gonna make Gavin hate me, and I'm gonna put Jigsaw in the A tier, and I'm gonna tell you why I do that. As I mentioned earlier, the guy very recognizable. I think at least the franchise itself, and I think him along with Billy the Puppet, which is an extension of him. I think they're very recognizable. They definitely have an insane body count. Look at the number of people that have actually been able to escape a saw trap. It is extremely low. The body count's high. Very few survivors. There's a good reason for him doing what he's doing. There is a character with depth, with loss, that deals with loss, has dealt with his own near-death experiences. Who turned from he's got a good backstory. And no matter how many sequels they make, they generally tend to, it's not like they make room for the character. The character needs to be there. And even after he's dead, it makes sense for him to be there. And I think that while he's definitely not S tier, because I think that's reserved for like that quote unquote Mount Rushmore, which he's not on. I think he's damn close. So Gavin says, I got to throw my phone to the other side of the room now. Don't give up hope yet. Don't give up hope yet, Gavin. Chucky may well move up to the S tier. I'm still not done with the list. And moves can be made. So up next, we have Victor Crowley from the Hatchet franchise. 4 films in total. Some really good work by Adam Green. I think he is the modern day version of Jason Voorhees. Which I think Kane Hodder played him. I know he played his dad. I think he played Crowley. Oh, wow, that hurt. I think he played his dad as well. I think Victor Crowley was an attempt to try to create a new Jason, to try to help create more slasher icons in the early or mid 2000s, the first decade. The films do have a bit of comedy to them, which I'm perfectly fine with. He's got a pretty damn big body count in those 4 films. I think that the films themselves do a pretty good job of bouncing back and forth between humor and horror. Something I think a movie like Cabin Fever could learn from, that balance. But as far as the slasher itself, which that's what we're looking at here, we see Ashwin in the chat says Victor Crowley is too strong and uncontrollable in the film Hatchet. Also, the film has some great kill counts. I'll definitely agree there. I wouldn't put him in anything lower than C tier, and I wouldn't put him in anything higher than B tier. I think Victor belongs somewhere in B or C tier. With that said, if you ask a common moviegoer if they know who Victor Crowley is from the Hatchet franchise, they're probably not going to know who he is. If you ask a horror fan, generally speaking, they're going to know who that is. If you ask a slasher fan in particular, they're definitely going to know who that is. Big body count. I mean, he kind of has like a run-of-the-mill origin story. Nothing too fancy about that. But he's definitely one of the more imposing forces, I think, on this list. I think maybe other than like Jason. And I'm looking through the list. I don't really see anybody else that maybe would be like big. You know, if you're talking Michael Myers from the Rob Zombie films, maybe. Leather's pretty big dude. But generally speaking, I think Victor may be like one of the biggest physically imposing specimens here on this list. But I think at the end of the day, I think I'm going to have to put Victor. Oh man, I got to tell you, I think C tier for Victor. I think C tier. I don't quite think he's on the level of like a Candyman, Hannibal, Norman Bates type. But I'd put him down here with the Deadites and the Creeper and whatnot. I think that's a fair place to put Victor. Yeah. So, The Thing is my favorite horror film of all time. Dude, anything John Carpenter touches turns to gold for the most part. The Thing is immaculate. Fan-fucking-tastic. Love that film. Reaper says, I have not watched the Hatchet series at all, so yeah. If I were you, Reaper, I'd check it out. Check them out. Watch the first one. See if it's for you. They're very entertaining films. I'll say that. So up next to Pennywise, the Dancing Clown, which we had contention earlier if Pennywise was a slasher, but it's I think he is. I think if you can say that Hannibal's a slasher, in a way, Pennywise is as well. And even the Creeper, because Pennywise and the Creeper have a very similar backstory, and they do very similar things in certain aspects. So Pennywise, portrayed by Tim Curry in the original, fucking legend. Wasn't too big on the remake as far as the Pennywise character, but the guy who played him, I think, Bill Skarsgård, but the character it's still Pennywise. He's still amazing. I definitely will not be putting Pennywise in the D tier, as he's, I think way above someone like a Harry Warden or a Cropsey. I'll be honest with you. I think he's even above the C tier. This is a character that, we talk about, would he be recognized by the general movie-going audience? Yes, I believe that he would. Another Stephen King creation. Horror readers, horror viewers alike will know this character. The original was so prolific, even though it was just like a made-for-TV type deal. And the films that have just been recently made, made bukus of money. Reviews were really good for the first one, especially. I think, quite frankly, that Pennywise deserves to be right here in the B tier. I'll go ahead and throw Pennywise in the B tier. Because there is some contention on whether he's even a slasher or not. I don't think I can quite put him up to A. But I think B is a good place for Pennywise. I think B is fair for the character. I think Pennywise deserves the A tier. You may convince me with this one. Let's see who we have left at the bottom. We got 5 more left. Huh. Let me take a look at this really quickly before I move on to anyone else. And does Pennywise deserve to be moved up to the A tier? That is the question. I'm going to leave him where he is for right now. I'm still looking at into Chucky and Pennywise to move up a tier. It's a possibility. But I'm going to move on with the list right now. I'm going to keep that in mind. How many times will you make me mad? As many times as I possibly can, apparently. So up next is Leprechaun. Now, this is a character I think a lot of older people, general moviegoers, general population, are going to know who Leprechaun is. I think maybe, teenagers now might not know exactly who this character is. Corny, cheesy type of films. Which, I mean, with the story that you created from the first film, and these movies kind of have to be that. The first film, I think, is, it's a classic in the sense of slasher horror. It is cheesy, it is campy, but a lot of these films are that, and are, that's a reason a lot of people love these films. The sequels, for the most part, I've not been too much of a fan of. I think they're decent, with the exception of that one WWE put out a few years ago, where they had one of their little people wrestlers playing the role, and it, like, the character had no character at all of a sudden. It was just like a beast. However, I will say I'm a fan of Leprechaun Returns, the most recent installment, portrayed more often than not by Warwick. I'm gonna have to piss some people off with this one. I really gotta I gotta remind people that Leprechaun, it is what it is, and this list is my opinion, just my opinion. I can be swayed by the chat. Still looking at Pennywise and Chucky, but I gotta tell you, I'm thinking D tier, guys. I'm thinking D tier, and I may have to go with it. I'm Gavin says, if you put Leprechaun in the A or B tier, I swear. No, you you don't have to worry about that. Excuse me. I'm actually trying to decide whether I want to put him in C or D at this moment. But, I think I got to remain true to my original thought here. And I think Leprechaun is unfortunately going to have to in the D tier. You're an entertaining little fella, but my opinion, I got to drop you down the list here. If there are any Leprechaun fans, I could be swayed to move him up to C tier if you can give me a convincing reason. But other than that, I think he's going to stay here in D. So up next is the Fisherman Ben Willis. And I think the only other person to don the fisherman's costume as a killer would be Will Benson, who killed with his father, Ben Willis, in the second film. So this was probably, I Know What You Did Last Summer was probably like the A1 best ripoff of Scream, and it was written by the guy who wrote Scream. So if you're going to have something rip off something great, why not have the person who wrote that great thing rip it off, right? And that's probably why it was so damn good. The original, I thought, was a really fantastic film. The sequel was a typical horror sequel, kind of cashing in on a lot of things from the first one, making some more money off of it, more dead bodies. But I think overall, the second one was a pretty decent flick. I enjoyed it. Unlike the third film, the I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer, where Ben Willis officially becomes a fucking zombie and continues killing, this time a group of people that he has no affiliation with whatsoever. It's a bad movie. Don't watch it. So overall, where would I put the Fisherman here? Gavin again, if you put the Fisherman on the B tier, A tier. I swear. No, I'm not going to be doing that. Does your average moviegoer today know who the hell Ben Willis the Fisherman is? No fucking way. Do some of your older moviegoers know? Maybe. I don't know if he's very prolific. I think that there are some ways to go about doing some interesting things with the character of the fisherman, even though I think the Ben Willis stuff is dead, literally and figuratively. I heard they were going to be making a TV show or like a made for TV type movie out of this soon. Another I Know What You Did Last Summer. I'm hyped for that because, it's been since 1998 since we got a proper entry. But as far as the killer itself, as far as the fisherman goes, I like the weapon, very Candyman-ish, but at the same time, it goes with the get up, the outfit, the costume. I think, and once again, this is a CD thing. It's a CD thing. The fisherman's going to be going in C or D. And once again, it kind of has like, okay, so Gavin says, I am 13 and I don't know who the fisherman is. So there you go. I mean, it's a prime example. Like your younger viewers aren't going to know who the hell this is. Gavin, you're into horror. You're 13. I'm not going to tell you to go watch horror movies, even though I was watching them at 9. But I Know What You Did Last Summer it's a really good film. I would check it out. As far as the fisherman goes, man, this sucks, but I think I'm gonna have to put him in D tier. It is what it is. I really love those films, but looking, with the exception of the third one, fuck the third one. But looking at all the other competition here, putting this into ranking, yeah, I'm sorry, the fisherman, you got to go D tier. So we'll move on here to Puppet Master, and this is all of the puppets. Blade, Pinhead, Six Shooter, Bleach Lady, all of the puppets as one cohesive unit throughout the films. And this is a little difficult because there's so many puppets with so many different abilities, so many different weapons, and there are so many different storylines that jump around, remakes, reboots, sequels, and they all either introduce puppets, take away some of the puppets, change aspects or personality traits of the puppets. So this one's a little bit difficult. I think we just have to look at the, the kills are somewhat decent in these films. There's a decent amount of them. I think if you look at all of the full moon work, this is probably at the top upper echelon of what Full Moon has put out, as far as people recognizing what it is, who these characters are. And this one's really difficult. It really is difficult for me to put these, given all of the different nuances here, it's a tad bit difficult for me. Gavin in the chat, the puppet should not be over Chucky because we probably wouldn't have him without Chucky. I think that, let's check that out because they came out really close to each other. I think Child's Play came out before Puppet Master. But it was very close when they came out. Let's see. I'm going to check it out here. So the original Child's Play came out November 9th, 1988. And let's see. We're going to look up Puppet Master's release date. I'm pretty sure Chucky came first. I just want to get how much time was there in between these films? Okay, so there was less than a year. So Child's Play came out November 9th, 1988. And Puppet Master, the original one, came out October 12th, 1989. So less than a year apart. They were definitely trying to cash in on the Child's Play shenanigans there. Let's see. Where am I going to put the puppets here from the Puppet Master franchise? Because I got to tell you, the original one's classic. There's a few sequels in between that I think are good. The most recent one that Full Moon did with Fangoria, with Thomas Lennon in it from Reno 911. That was fucking amazing. Some of the kills in that movie were just, you've never seen shit like this before. Just picked that movie up yesterday on Blu-ray, by the way. I would suggest anyone else who hasn't seen it, go check it out. One of the best puppet masters. And it goes back to making the puppets the real antagonists. Because there's some time in the middle of the series, a lot of time actually, where these guys are protagonists. So I think that's why it's so hard to put them on the list here somewhere. But to be honest with you guys, I think I got to do it again. I think I got to put the puppets in the D tier. You know what? No, I'm going to move them up to C tier. I'm going to move them up to C tier because I think that you have a group, a gang of people, of puppets that have all these different ways to kill, weapons at their disposal. They're very, they can play the good guy. They can play the bad guy. I'll put them in C tier. I think that's fair. Is it bad I don't know like 25% of who these people are? No, it's not bad that you don't know who 25% of these people are. I don't think that's bad. Like you said, you're young. If you're a young horror fan, I'm sure you'll find these films with channels like mine and the array of other channels that are out there putting out this type of content. And you'll probably end up giving it a shot. And some of these films you'll really enjoy, and some you won't. Yeah, we've all been there. Like I said, I started watching horror at the age of 9, when the internet was kind of, because I'm about to be 33 Tuesday, so the internet wasn't like in its infancy, but it wasn't one of those things like everybody had it. And but yeah, I'm old. So, so that's where that story's going. So anyway, we have 2 slasher characters left. We have Sam from Trick or Treat, and we have Pumpkinhead from Pumpkinhead. So let's go ahead and do Sam here. Sam was a one and done. Trick or Treat's part of an anthology story that Sam's kind of loosely connected to all the stories in this anthology series within the movie. Kind of like a creep show or something like that. So Sam was kind of like the glue that held it all together. He's always there in every one of these stories as either just a bystander or actively trying to murder people. As you can see here, he's got like a little burlap sack on, very reminiscent of Jason in Friday 2. Very deformed pumpkin-looking head underneath. So we kind of have 2 pumpkin heads left over here at the end. But as far as Sam goes, I think for him only to be featured in one film, Trick or Treat, there are a lot of horror fans that really enjoy this character. I mean, he's like 4'3", so he's kind of got the Chucky Leprechaun puppet thing going on here. But I think that, if you look at the film, I think there's really only one scene, and that's the ending scene where he actually attacks someone and goes for the kill, and he doesn't kill him. Some of the other characters in the film later on kill this character. So I think he only kills the opening lady who is taking down the Halloween decorations, if I'm not mistaken. That would give Sam exactly 1 confirmed kill, 1 film. I think the general movie-going audience has no idea who the fuck this is. I think most horror fans probably do. But, sorry, Sam. You're going to go here in the D tier. You're a cute little guy. A lot of people love you. But I can't see putting you anywhere else other than the D tier. Sackhead Sam. Yes, Mistaken Reaper says you're only 2 years older than me, Bram. Well, you're getting old too, then, Reaper. We're all getting old, man. I don't know what to say. Gavin, you don't know who Sam is either. Forgivable. Is Pumpkinhead a slasher, though? Yeah, I mean, he pretty much goes around literally slashing people open with his talons. So I would say so. I would say so. I know Ed Holly would agree. All right, let's see. So Pumpkinhead, last one, and we are done with this 25-piece fucking puzzle. And then I'm going to make any alterations here at the end that I think should be made. Pumpkinhead, the original film with Lance Hendrickson, kind of a horror icon in and of his own right. Enjoyable film. The second one, decent. I think there were 2 other sequels after the second one. I think like a Blood Feud and I don't know, something along those lines. Ashes to Ashes, maybe. Kind of been laying dormant for a while. I've heard rumblings over the last couple of years about more Pumpkinhead films. I think Sci-Fi has their hands in it somewhere, so it could become like a made-for-TV type thing, like the last couple were. Pumpkinhead, I think, is a very ferocious, but also kind of a blank slate in a lot of ways because, you know, is it really the same Pumpkinhead? I mean, I guess it kind of is, using different vessels to come back to life. It's a bit confusing how the story pans out, but I'll be honest with you. I think that a lot of older movie-going audiences may know who he is. Younger, not so much. Generally speaking, in today's day and age, I don't think so. But I think he was I mean, you're looking at a decently brutal slasher. I think that I definitely wouldn't have him anywhere over B. I don't even think I would put him in B, honestly. I think this is a C or D tier character. He's tenacious, but he's always put down. You know, guys, I'm going to have to do it. I really hate to do this. I'll put him in C. I'll be a little gracious here and put him in C. And now I think it's time to go ahead and make any final adjustments to the list before we finish. So Ashwin in the chat says, this is my first time visiting your channel. I really enjoyed this live and I subscribe to your channel. Thank you very much, Ashwin. Welcome to the channel. I appreciate it. I'm going to be putting out, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but I'm going to be doing a horror movie collection update. I've got a lot of titles within the last 6 months or so since I've done one of these. I'm going to be putting one of those out very soon. Also, we do a series here on Bloody Breakdown called Bloody Breakdown, where we do a deep dive into one particular film, and that's going to be Cabin Fever. Should be coming out within the next week and a half. So yeah, welcome to the channel. Thanks for subscribing. Feel free, if you'd like, to check the description for all my links on social media and Patreon. So yeah, I'm everywhere. Go check me out. And thanks for joining us. Ashwin says, I came here from the Scary Movie subreddit and as a huge fan of slasher films, I'm looking forward to more live discussions. And yeah, this is like my third live that I've done on this channel, even though I've had this channel for almost 2 years now. But I do enjoy doing the live thing, and I think it's going to be something more often that I'm going to be doing. I'd like to be able to get some more guests here. Like I had Slasher Critic on a couple of weeks back, or a few weeks back, to discuss the Paranormal Activity franchise. That was cool. Go check that out if you haven't. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing more live discussions like this. Gavin says, I subbed to your channel. Thank you, Gavin. I'm sorry I've pissed you off so immensely during this ranking, but I appreciate you subscribing anyway. Do a slasher franchise tier list. Yeah. As far as tier stuff goes, the ideas that I have going forward are franchises, horror franchises, and Final Girls. I think Final Girls are another good tier list that I could put together. So keep your eyes out for those as well. And Chucky better be on the S tier. I tell you, I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. Speaking of, let's go look really quickly and see if there are any final modifications that I want to make to this list before I close this thing out and call it a day for this tier list. So in the D tier, we have Harry Warden, the Miner. We have Cropsy from The Burning. We have Leprechaun, the Fisherman Ben Willis, and Sam from Trick or Treat. I don't think that any of these guys really deserve to move up. Honestly, I think if I were going to move any of them up, it would probably be the Fisherman. But I got to tell you, after I just, it's my list. You know what? We're doing it. We're moving up the Fisherman to the C tier. And I'm sorry if anyone doesn't like that. But once again, it's my personal opinion. So in the C tier, we have Billy from Black Christmas. We have the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. We have Leslie Vernon, the Deadites, Victor Crowley, the Puppets from Puppet Master, Pumpkinhead, and a newly moved up Fisherman. So here's what I'm going to do. I am actually going to make a couple of adjustments, I think, to the C tier. I think that I'm gonna move the Puppets down to the D tier. Yeah, it is what it is. And I also think that Billy being one of the originals, you know what? No, it makes sense to give him a certain level of respect, but we're just looking at the slashers. We're not looking at the film itself. So I think I'm going to see over one more time here and see if there's anybody else that I think should be moved. I think we're good. So we're going to move up here to the B tier. And let me check the chat just to make sure. B tier, Candyman. He's one that I really want to move up. I just don't know. The Firefly Trio, Norman Bates, Hannibal Lecter, and Pennywise the Clown. Oh, man. Very difficult. But I think I'm going to leave that one there too. I think I'm going to leave Pennywise where he's at. I know I had some questions about that. But I think we're good here where we're at. All right, A tier, Chucky. Definitely some contention from Gavin about that one. Pinhead, Ghostface, Jigsaw. I'm gonna have to leave this one the way it is. I think, in my opinion, it's good the way it is. And of course, S tier, Freddy, Jason, Leather, Michael. I think there's one more move that does need to be made. Pennywise is a very scary villain. I'll agree with you there. I'm gonna make there's one move left that I'm pondering if I should make. And you know what? I'm going to leave it the way it is. I'll tell you guys what I was pondering. I was pondering a Leatherface move to the A tier. But I think I will keep the slasher Mount Rushmore exactly where it's at. I think I will leave. This is my list. So one more time, we've got S tier, Freddy, Jason, Leather, Michael. I think that's pretty solid. A tier, Chucky. Sorry, Gavin. Pinhead, Ghostface, John Kramer, Jigsaw. B tier, Candyman, Fireflies, Norman Bates, Lecter, and Pennywise. C tier, Billy, Creeper, Leslie Vernon, the Deadites, Victor Crowley, Pumpkinhead, and the Fisherman. And D tier, Harry Warden, the Miner, Cropsy, Leprechaun, Sam, and the Puppets from Puppet Master. So yeah, I think that's about it. And there it is. Gavin's typing in all caps now. Chucky is the best horror villain here. Are you kidding me? He's got to go throw his phone off the rooftop now, ladies and gentlemen. What have I done? What kind of fucking monster am I? Like, I should be on this list at this point. I'm such a monster, but I'd definitely be in the D tier because I have a low body count and no one knows who the fuck I am. So let me go get a picture of me here and add me to the fucking D tier. But no, I've had a lot of fun putting this list together. Once again, it's just my opinion. I respect everyone's opinion here in the chat and everyone that's going to watch this later on, whether we agree or disagree. Had a lot of fun putting the list together. Had a lot of fun with you guys who did join me here in the chat. I know it's an early stream. At least we started at 11:30 a.m. on the East Coast. It's like 8:30 on the fucking West Coast. So I do want to thank you, Gavin. I want to thank Mistaken Reaper. That's Gavin likes movies. Mistaken Reaper 22. Ashwin. I want to thank you. Thank everyone who joined me here in the live chat for this thing. Sean was in here earlier. I want to thank you all for joining me here in the live chat. Thank you who watched this later on. And trash me in the comments because of whatever you disagree with. It's fine. It's cool. Just keep it civil. And yeah, once again, all my links are in the description. You know what? Give this video a thumbs up if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this, let me know you enjoyed it and let YouTube know that you enjoyed it by giving it a thumbs up, because not only are you helping me out by giving me a thumbs up, helping me with interaction, so to speak, here on YouTube, but you're also helping yourself out. If you like this kind of content that I put out, YouTube is going to know what you like, and they're going to give you more similar content, not just from me, but from similar content creators. So give it a thumbs up. I did see 2 people in the chat here that said they subscribed today. I greatly appreciate that. If you haven't done so, subscribe. Turn on that little bell. It'll give you notifications to whatever device you're using to let you know anytime I go live or upload. Also, if you check down in the description section, you'll see a couple of links where you can follow or friend me on different various social media outlets like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I try to stay active on there as much as I possibly can. There's also a link to my Patreon where I have a $1, $5, and $10 tier. You get some pretty cool perks, I think, for being a one-time or a monthly contributor. If that's something you're interested in doing or something you're able to do right now. I know it's kind of difficult for everybody out there with the Rona going on, a lot of job loss and whatnot. That's why I, try to do these things and keep people entertained and, that kind of thing. So yeah, other than that, leave your comments down below. I look forward to interacting with everyone who watches this later on. Just like I looked forward to interacting with everyone here in the live chat this morning. And yeah, let me know how your slasher tier list would go. If you've made one, feel free to send me a video you've made or a picture. Send it my way. We'll have a discussion about it. I enjoy the topics at hand. So yeah, I guess with that said, we're going to go ahead and wrap things up one more time. Thank you all for watching. This once again has been just my opinion. Don't take it too personally. And I am Bren from Bloody Breakdown, and we will catch you all next time.